We've officially made it to the start of the season. Man, how excited I am to experience a nice, calm year of football where everything goes according to plan and nothing goes wrong whatsoever.
Defense number 98. Number 98's defense actions has disqualified him from the game. Whoa.
6 seconds. You got ejected 6 seconds into the first game of the season? How absolutely stupid do you have to be? Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles won the opening game of the 2025 season over the Dallas Cowboys by a final score of 24-20. And of all the crazy things to happen during this game, from the lightning delay, which, amazingly enough, was not the first time the Eagles won the Super Bowl and then opened up the season at home and had the game get delayed due to lightning, and the moment during the rain delay where CeeDee Lamb decided to find the biggest bowl of butter possible and just douse his hands in it, this is the moment that's going to be talked about for a long time. Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, is one of the most talented players in the game. He's also a certified moron, and we're seeing why he's slid in the draft, because we all knew at the time that it had nothing to do with talent. And not even 6 seconds into the game, before the Cowboys even ran their first play from scrimmage, Carter got ejected for spitting directly at Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. Now, we can have a Han Solo type debate about who spit first and whether Dak was the one to instigate it by spitting in the direction of Carter. So on one hand, Prescott clearly spit in his direction. On the other hand, not only did no saliva touch Carter, but Carter should not have even been there in the first place, seeing as it was just inches away from the Cowboys huddle for some reason. Regardless of who spit first or what's going to happen going forward, Carter committed one of the most obvious ejections in the history of football. You spit on a guy, and the quarterback of all people, directly in front of an official, and the spit lands on him? Especially in a post-COVID world? You're going to get tossed from the game, no questions asked. Philadelphia sorely missed Carter, even though they won this game, and you saw his impact as the Cowboys were able to move the ball down the field with ease and not have Dak Prescott be under any sort of pressure. There is no official data on this, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that this is the quickest ejection in NFL history. I'm not counting things that happened before the game, like what happened with Jeremiah Trotter in 2005 during a game between the Eagles and the Falcons that you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, or what happened in 2004 in a game between the Steelers and the Browns with Joey Porter. If the rule is that the game has to kick off, this has to take the cake. Moral of the story, don't spit on a guy. Just don't do it. Which raises the question, what was the fastest ejection before that? Again, there's no official data on this, but what's the quickest someone got ejected prior to whatever the heck Jalen Carter did? We've seen guys get tossed in the first half, and we've seen guys get tossed in the first quarter. But was there someone else who was dumb enough to get tossed in the first minute of the game as some fans were still getting to their seats? Well, there was one person. Jalen Carter is not alone. He's not the only 6'3" first-round pick Pro Bowl defensive tackle to get tossed that quickly. Because this man right here is Chicago Bears defensive tackle Tommie Harris. And in 2009, he set a record that I thought could never be topped until Jalen Carter just turned his brain off. And seeing what happened to open up the 2025 season, it's worth a deep dive today. Because this is the story behind one of the quickest ejections in NFL history. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one they may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping the video, and for turning on that notification bell and joining this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about when it only took a guy 54 seconds to hit the showers. Before I talk about the actual incident in question, we need some context to understand the importance of the game at hand, as well as who the player was, because he was in the news before everything went down. It's November 8th, 2009. It's week 9 of the NFL season, and we head to Soldier Field at the halfway point of the year for this NFC battle between the Arizona Cardinals and the Chicago Bears. in a game big enough to get Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call. The last time these teams met, it was an instant classic, as that was the 24-23 Bears win over the Cardinals on Monday Night Football, where Devin Hester became a legend, and where Dennis Green delivered one of the greatest rants in NFL history with his iconic statement of, "They are who we thought they were." This one that we were about to see would be remembered for very different reasons, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Anyways, the Cardinals enter this game at 4-3, atop the NFC West by one game over the San Francisco 49ers. While the Bears also enter this game at 4-3, likely already out of the division hunt with the Vikings at 7-1, but very much in the wild card hunt. You had 9 teams at this point in the NFC who were above 500, fighting for just 6 spots in the playoffs. And seeing as Chicago could only make it by winning the wild card, the margin for error was slim for the Bears. And if the margin for error was anywhere between slim and non-existent, I can't even imagine what it was like after the incident that took place. But once again, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Because this man is defensive tackle Tommie Harris. There was both good and bad news with Harris. The good news was that when he was on his game, there were few defensive linemen in football better than he was. He was drafted in the first round of the 2004 NFL Draft for a reason, and played an instrumental part in helping the Bears reach Super Bowl 41 during the 2006 season. Harris made it to the Pro Bowl 3 times in his first 4 seasons, and was even named an AP's second-team All-Pro in 2005, when the Bears had the #1 defense in football from a points allowed standpoint, and were good enough to get a first-round bye. The bad news was that he was super inconsistent as of late, and was becoming somewhat of a head case. In 2008, Harris got suspended by the team for 1 game for a variety of reasons, including refusing to cooperate on treatment for his knee, showing up late and not doing the treatment, and getting into a heated argument with head coach Lovie Smith about a roster decision, which was the decision to release wide receiver Mark Bradley. So you would think he would learn his lesson and wouldn't do it again. However, that's where you'd be mistaken. Because 1 year later, in 2009, 2 weeks before the Cardinals game, Harris didn't suit up in a game against the Cincinnati Bengals, as he was suspended once again by the team for refusing to practice for the entire week and for once again not cooperating fully after a knee injury. 2 team-issued suspensions in a 2-year stretch. This is just the SparkNotes version of it, because I could go more in depth if I had the time, but you get the idea. The man had his issues as of late, and while he was back in the starting lineup for the game against the Cardinals, he had a lot to prove to his teammates and to his coaches, especially considering his declining play as of late as well. If he could play well against the Cardinals, a team that made it to the Super Bowl last year, and a team with a bunch of future Hall of Famers on offense, including Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald, then all would be forgiven. And on the second play of the game, it seemed like it was going to be a good one for Harris, and it was going to be a game to show Chicago that he was back. Yes, he comes up the middle unblocked, but he still manages to lay a hit on Kurt Warner and force an incomplete pass, even if Harris didn't necessarily have to do anything special on this play. More of that, and the Bears have a chance. I should also note that the game that Harris was suspended for was a 45-10 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, where the Bengals had 215 yards of rushing on about 5 yards per carry, and where Carson Palmer threw 5 touchdowns and never got sacked. So that gives you an idea of how much the Bears missed Tommie Harris on the interior of the line. So far, so good with making his presence felt. Now, he just has to keep this up for the rest of the game, and the Bears are in business. Which takes us to the third play of the game, where on 3rd down, Kurt Warner keeps the drive alive by standing tall in the pocket and delivering a strike to Steve Reston for a gain of 23 and a first down. I don't care about the completion. The important thing is what happens on the line. Because on this play, Tommie Harris falls to the ground and then gets hit again in potentially unnecessary fashion by Deuce Latui. This sets the scene for what's about to happen next. We've established just a couple of seconds into the game that this was going to be a physical one in the trenches, and that Latui was going to handle Harris however he could, especially after that earlier play where Harris was able to get to Warner untouched. Also remember, Harris was coming off of a lower body injury, so this hit definitely did not help matters much for him. It's like if what we're about to see is the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, this play was the alliance aspect of it in terms of the build-up to World War I. This wasn't the spark that set it off, but something was brewing. Which takes us to play number 4, where after Tim Hightower gets 13 yards, Latui and Harris go at it. I shouldn't say that Latui and Harris go at it, because it was more like Latui laying helplessly on the ground and Harris just slugging him by punching him while he was completely defenseless. Latui was being tended to, and the flags were flying. What was surprising was the fact that Latui somehow stayed in the game and didn't miss a single snap. What was unsurprising, however, was the fact that Tommie Harris was ejected for this, because it can't exactly slug a guy in the NFL. You can do a lot of violent things, because football is a game of violence, but you can't do that. That crosses a line. Literally the very first thing in Rule 12, Section 3, Article 1, in terms of prohibited acts, is the fact that you can't throw a punch at someone, and that such an act, if flagrant, and obviously this was flagrant, will lead to an ejection. Just like that, Tommie Harris was gone on the 4th play from scrimmage. The 4th play was called 54 seconds into the game. Harris, who needed to prove himself because he was ruffling a lot of feathers of the organization, didn't help his cause here, and became public enemy number 1 in Chicago for his stupidity. Even if this was brewing from the previous play, you can't do this. You just can't do this. This is assault. And after Harris got ejected, the floodgates opened up for Arizona. As you're watching right now, and we'll see throughout the rest of this video, without Harris in there for the Bears, the Cardinals dominated on offense, winning the game by a final score of 41-21, in a game where the Cards averaged close to 6 yards per carry, and where Kurt Warner only got sacked once while throwing 5 touchdown passes. That was now his second game where the opposing team completely dominates at the line of scrimmage and puts up a crap ton of points with Tommie Harris out. Harris's selfishness and stupidity cost the Bears a chance at winning this one. And afterwards, you can bet that everyone was furious with him. You can only defend your teammates so much before you need to put them on blast for their actions and for putting you behind the 8 ball. As Adewale Ogunleye, one of the captains for the Bears on defense, said on this, that kind of play is unacceptable. For you to get ejected from the game, I don't care what happens. You can't do it. You're a leader out there. We need you out there for the game. I've got to watch the film, but the way the rules are set up, you just can't do stuff like that to get ejected. Can't do it. Defensive end Alex Brown was also livid, saying on his teammate after this game, "I'm not talking about Tommie, all right? I'm not talking about him. I don't want to talk about him." And head coach Lovie Smith was also furious about the situation, saying, "There's nothing Tommie can really tell me. He got kicked out of the football game for punching a guy." Short, sufficient, and to the point. It seemed like the only one who wasn't angry with Harris after this game right here was, oddly enough, the man who got slugged, Deuce Latui. Of course, winning heals all wounds, and the fact that he didn't get hurt from this is kind of amazing. But Latui took the high road in the post-game presser when he did not have to, and he said that what transpired was a part of the game. As Latui said, it was nothing serious. It happened real quick. It was just unfortunate he had to be ejected from the game. He's a real competitive athlete, and he looks real good on film. Things like that happen. Sometimes you lose your composure. Stuff like that happens all the time. Sometimes it doesn't get caught. It's trench work. That's what happens in the trenches. I mean, I don't know if I go that far. Guys getting punched on the ground while being unable to defend themselves isn't something that you see in a football game. And I don't see a boxing match every time I turn on a football game when it comes to the men on the lines, but I digress. Harris apologized one day later, saying, "I was embarrassed, especially for my actions. I apologized to Latui yesterday, called Larry Fitzgerald, and had the chance to apologize to him. I just wanted to apologize to my fans first off, and the little kids out there that saw that action. I shouldn't have behaved in that manner, and I apologize to my teammates, and I'll make up for it." And while that's a pretty good apology, at the end of the day, it's something that you just can't do in the first place. And Harris never really made up for it. He was never the same after that ejection. He was relegated to a rotational piece in 2010 and was out of the starting lineup. He was out of the NFL by the end of the 2011 season, not even 2 years after this incident. Talk about a fall from grace for a man who was heralded as one of the best interior defenders of the mid-2000s. Whether you're spitting on a guy or punching a guy, it's not a good look to get ejected not even 1 minute into the contest. If your team is counting on you to make plays and is game planning everything with you in mind, for you to let them down after 1 minute of a 60-minute game because you can't control your temper and feel the need to assault someone is not a good idea. Carter's career won't be derailed because of this, because the man's a third-year player and is an anchor on that Eagles defensive line, and will be for a long time. But the same could not be said about Tommie Harris. Because on this November day in 2009, Harris wasn't a monster of the Midway. He was just a straight-up monster. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.